Hi everybody, I'm Greg Fishel. Welcome to the Monday edition of the bonus weather video, and we're going to be doing an evaluation of the 2023 hurricane season so far, see where we stand, and I think by the time this video is complete, you will have concluded, as I have, that you can twist these numbers any way you want to make any point that you want to make. But as is usually the case, I attempt to be as objective and honest about things as I can, and in doing so, my comments may not be consistent with a lot of other things that you may be hearing elsewhere. But take what you like and leave the rest. All right, so let's go on ahead and take a look. First off here, something called accumulated cyclone energy, and we did a video on this a while back, but just for the purposes of review, this is one way that you can evaluate the overall energy associated with a given hurricane season. So kinetic energy itself is defined as the energy which a body possesses by virtue of being in motion, okay? Now, the equation for that is 1/2 times the mass times the velocity squared, okay? So kinetic energy is proportional to the square of the velocity of any given body, okay? Now, the mathematical equation for accumulated cyclone energy, or ACE, again, you knew there had to be an acronym, is the summation of all the maximum velocities of a tropical cyclone taken every 6 hours in knots, and you square those values and you sum them all up at the end of the storm and you divide by 10,000. Now, why do you divide by 10,000? Well, because if you have a couple of really strong hurricanes and you start squaring numbers like 120 and 130, you start getting an outrageously high number. So by dividing it by 10,000, you sort of bring it back to a reasonable level so that you can evaluate things without having 19 million digits in your number. Okay. So this is a chart showing the observed ACE so far through October 9th versus climatology, which is based on a 30-year period from 1991 to 2020. Now, the blue line is climatology. That's what you would, I hate to say normally expect, because no year is exactly normal. But if you average out those 30 years, this is the curve that you get. And then the orange line is what we have actually observed. Now, you'll notice that we got off to a little bit of an early start. You remember those storms we had back in June that everybody was in an uproar about how we had never seen storms develop that far out in the Atlantic so early in the year? Well, that may be true for modern history, but there's no way to know all time whether or not that's true or not. But we were running ahead of climatology, and then notice here, we actually fell slightly below climatology. We were actually behind for a while, not much, but a little bit. And then all of a sudden in late August, we just went crazy with named storms. And now you can see that we're up here and climatology is down here. Now, another way to look at this is to actually take a look at the difference between observed and climatology. So this is a plot of that difference, okay? So we were above climatology until, about the 20th of August, I guess. And then we went below, and then August 28th was the beginning of a very, very active period. And between August 28th and September 15th, we jumped from being slightly below climatology to being 35 units above climatology, okay? So we definitely had a very, very active, what would that be, 18-day period. And you can see that since then, we've actually come down, so the difference now is about 26, but that's still, that's still significant. Now, here is a list of all the storms. There was actually an unnamed storm back in January, and the ACE value with that was only 1.4, but here they all are. And you can see the two numbers really stand out. Franklin, which stayed out over the ocean, had ACE value of 26.6. And remember, the longer the storm goes on and the more intense it is, if it has both of those things going for it, you're going to get a very, very high ACE value. Now down here, Lee, which got to Category 5 status for a while, is the granddaddy of them all so far for this season at 36.8. And again, it lasted for about a week and a half, and also had incredibly strong sustained winds for at least a part of its lifetime. And then you can see all the other ones there. Now, here's one thing that's interesting. Here's Idalia. This is the only hurricane this season to make landfall in the United States, okay? And I would argue the only one that's had any real significant impact. The ACE value for that was 7.4, and you might be thinking, how can that be? Well, it had a very, very short lifetime. It only lasted from August 27 to August 31st, and the time that it had the really strong winds was very short-lived. It rapidly intensified just before landfall and then immediately weakened once it came inland. So it had a short lifetime overall. It had a very short lifetime of strong winds, and so the combination of those two factors meant that we only had a ACE value of 7.4, which may be a little bit misleading in terms of the overall impact. So here are some interesting tidbits to wrap all of this up. And again, this is the part where you're going to look at it and say, gosh, I could make any argument I wanted to based on these numbers. So number one, 49% of the total ACE so far this season is attributable to two storms, okay? Franklin and also Lee. And so, almost half of the kinetic energy for this entire hurricane season is because of two of the 18 storms. Through today, we have had 18 named storms, and normal through this date is 11.8. So we are definitely running well ahead of that. However, through today, we have had a total of 6 hurricanes, and normal is 5.7. We're normal, okay? From a hurricane standpoint, this has not been an overly active season. In terms of named storms, yes. But in terms of hurricanes, no. We're only 0.3 above climatology. Through today, 3 major hurricanes. Normal is 2.6. That's pretty close to normal, right? So from a standpoint of hurricanes and major hurricanes, there's been nothing unusual about this season whatsoever. Through today, the total ACE is 129, normal is 103, so admittedly, we're well ahead on that. There have been 3 U.S. landfalls, 2 tropical storms, Harold and Ophelia, and 1 hurricane, Idalia, okay? And, let me see if I can get myself out of here. 11 of the 18 storms so far have had ACE values of less than 5, and one of the storms only had a lifetime of less than a day. So because of satellites and because of increased ability in remote sensing, we are able to locate these storms that maybe in the past we didn't even know were there or didn't know that they had tropical characteristics to them, okay? So the number of named storms has gone up because of that, but in terms of hurricanes and major hurricanes, it's obvious, at least this season, that that number really is it's not out of the realm of normal when you consider the average of the last 30 years. And so you can make the argument, oh yeah, it was a really, really active hurricane season. We've had 18 named storms so far, and you wouldn't be lying by saying that. But if you, again, narrowed it down to just the hurricanes and the major hurricanes, you can't make that argument. You really can't, at least not so far. Now, we've still got a little bit to go, and there have been some big hurricanes in, mid and late October. So we don't want to, rule anything out just yet. But if we don't have much in the way of activity the rest of the hurricane season, then when it's all said and done, even our ACE values may not be that much higher than the climatological value for the entire season. But I don't want to make a definitive statement on that, because as soon as I do, we'll have 9 hurricanes develop in a week, and I don't want to see that happen. So, all right. So that is a bonus weather video number 1 for this week. Hope you found that intriguing. I found some of those numbers interesting, to be honest with you. The next bonus weather video will be coming up on Wednesday, and the next daily weather update will be coming up a little later today. Hopefully we'll get that out by 6 o'clock. So you all take care, folks. Have a great Monday evening, and we'll talk to you soon.